In our last video, we discussed how interactive, usable content outperforms traditional reading material, exemplified by the Wiz story. Today, we dive into a critical market expansion mistake that can silently undermine strong go-to-market strategies. A common pattern emerges with Israeli cyber companies expanding globally. They often have a strong product and a clear value proposition, gaining initial traction in the US. However, when they decide to expand to Europe, they make a crucial error. They use the same deck, translated into different languages, with identical outreach sequences, case studies, and messaging. The outcome? A thin pipeline, prolonged deal cycles, and confusing objections that don't align with their product. They conclude that the European market is harder. But the truth is, the market isn't harder. The positioning is simply wrong. US and EU enterprise buyers operate under fundamentally different risk models, leading to distinct primary concerns. Using a single narrative for both markets doesn't just confuse, it creates invisibility. Your message fails to resonate with either audience because it's not tailored for either. Here's the structural difference. US enterprise buyers are pressured to consolidate their security stack and demonstrate ROI on every line item. With an average of 45 cybersecurity tools, their CISO faces demands from the CFO to reduce vendor count and justify renewals. Their initial questions revolve around deployment speed, replacements, and payback periods. The buying decision is economic and operational. In contrast, EU enterprise buyers, particularly in Germany, the Netherlands, France, and the Nordics, operate within a compliance and sovereignty framework unmatched in the US. The EU's NIS2 directive has expanded mandatory cybersecurity requirements to over 160,000 organizations across 18 sectors. GDPR fines reached 1.2 billion euros in 2024 alone. For a European CISO, the first questions are about data storage, compliance with NIS2, cross-border incidents, and new compliance obligations. A vendor unable to address these concerns in their initial outreach is filtered out before any conversation begins. This means your first outreach email to a CISO in Frankfurt must differ from one sent to a CISO in Austin. It's not just about language, it's about framing your product's value. One approach focuses on consolidation and ROI, while the other emphasizes compliance readiness and data sovereignty. Orca Security exemplified this insight when expanding into new markets. In India and Latin America, they didn't just adapt their messaging, they also adjusted their infrastructure by opening regional data centers. This wasn't solely for performance, it was about data residency. In regulated markets, the question, "Where is my data?" can block procurement. By addressing this concern up front, they achieved 100% year-over-year customer growth in both regions. For companies lacking the resources to establish regional data centers, the key lies in messaging, not infrastructure. Create an EU-specific landing page, develop a compliance brief aligned with NIS2, and initiate outreach with a regulatory trigger. Your NIS2 implementation deadline is approaching, and we've identified specific gaps in companies at your stage. This approach fundamentally alters the conversation. This isn't merely a translation project. Translation changes words. Repositioning changes the reason buyers should care. The product remains the same, but the stories about its importance differ significantly. At Match B2B, we craft both tracks, including tailored messaging, persona targeting, and content that aligns with each market's unique buying logic. In our next video, we'll explore why the CISO isn't your first buyer and identify who truly influences deal progression before the decision maker gets involved. Links are below. Good luck, and see you in the next video.